Coming up on the Get Lean, Eat Clean podcast, what tip would you give someone that, I don't know, like middle-aged individual, let's say middle-aged male, haven't done much working out? What advice would you give them, just maybe if they wanted to get their body back to what it once, maybe when they were in their 30s or so? What steps would you tell them to take?
I would tell them that the window for them, getting in shape or back in shape is closing. Like you can't all of a sudden get in shape when you're 65.
Sure.
You can do better. You can
Right.
always improve especially if you're deconditioned.
Hello, and welcome to the Get Lean, Eat Clean podcast. I'm Brian Grin, and I'm here to give you actionable tips to get your body back to what it once was 5, 10, even 15 years ago. Each week, I'll give you an in-depth interview with a health expert from around the world to cut through the fluff and get you long-term sustainable results. This week, I interviewed the inventor of the X3 bar, Dr. John Jaquish. This was the third time I've had Dr. Jaquish on the podcast, and we discussed all about the advantages of using the X3 bar, what variable resistance is, along with all the new products in the X3 line, building muscle with less joint pain, Dr. John's daily diet, and his one tip to get your body back to what it once was. Really interesting conversation I had with Dr. Jaquish. I know you'll enjoy it. Thanks so much for listening and enjoy the show. All right. Welcome to the Get Lean, Eat Clean podcast. My name is Brian Grin. And for the third time, Dr. John Jaquish, welcome to the show.
Brian, thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming on. I'm glad we got this together. I've been a big user of the X3 and wanted to have you on again, see if we could talk about maybe some updates with the product or any new things that are coming out. So I guess before we get into that, for people who maybe didn't listen to the first two interviews, maybe just a short background of what got you into developing and inventing this product, and just your background from a education standpoint.
Sure. Started in the life sciences by designing a medical device to reverse bone density loss, so osteoporosis or osteopenia, which is like pre-osteoporosis.
Mm-hmm.
Really developed it to treat my mother, reversed hers in about 6 months. Totally unheard of. Like it brought her back to the bone density of a 30-year-old when she was in her late 70s.
That's
And
great.
then that technology is now all over the world, 260 locations in 12 different countries. That's called OsteoStrong.
Yeah.
The website is osteostrong.me. Yeah, that one's great. And then in the development of that process, I made a huge discovery about physical performance and training in general. And I wrote a book about it. It's called Weightlifting is a Waste of Time. I know you've read the book. We talked about it on the last show. And it's, of course, an offensive title for people who are allergic to learning new things. Most of those are found in gyms. So yeah, it's been an interesting bit of time since the launch of that book, and all the upset, illiterate people.
Hey, you know what? It grabs
Really,
people's
really
attention,
proud of.
whether they
Oh
want to
yeah,
believe you
oh
or not,
absolutely.
right? Whether they want to believe you or not, it grabs their attention. So,
Yeah, I mean, like if somebody asked me, is weightlifting really a waste of time? The answer is no, but
right. Yeah. I mean,
there's an approach that is much, much like infinitely better. And it has to do with matching your capability to the load you're lifting, which seems obvious, though for somebody but me, at least as far as designing a consumer product for it. Like there were people in research. Funny thing, there are researchers that come up to me at different congresses of medicine, and they're like, "How did you think of the X3? It's so elegant, it's so smooth." And I look at their name tag and I recognize their name. I referenced one of their papers in this book, and I'm like, how did you not come up with it? And they kind of look at me like, well, I've never developed a product before.
yeah, like some people just don't have that mindset, right? Like there's people who are researchers and then there's
Right.
people who are inventors. So,
Yeah.
you know,
Immersed in the data, yet it's like
mm,
no one's going, hey, you know what we could demonstrate with this data is like that weightlifting sucks. It doesn't really stimulate the body like we think it does. But there's a way to even do even better with something that's way cheaper than weights.
Why don't you explain to the audience maybe your thinking behind the X3 and variable resistance? I mean, obviously bands have been around, right? So I think a lot of people associate the X3 as, oh, it's just bands, but there obviously
Right.
there's more to that than that.
Yeah,
So maybe give that
sure.
explanation.
Yeah, bands by themselves are more worthless than weights. And the problem with bands by themselves is because let's say I have a band, I throw it around my back and I go to do a push-up with it. Well, my wrists are being outwardly rotated. And if I'm going really heavy, if I'm using a band that delivers, let's say, 200 pounds of force, that could severely injure my wrist. I mean, just one time.
Yeah,
And,
it's awkward. It's
yeah,
awkward.
well, awkward if you're going light. It's a
Yeah.
guaranteed injury if you're going anything relevant to strength.
Yeah.
That's the problem with when you want to get stronger. There is no getting away from heavy. But what X3 is a very strategic approach to putting the heaviest loads through your body with very close to zero risk of injury if you use it correctly.
And yeah, no, I was just going to say, yeah. So you have the resistant bands along with an Olympic bar. I know you have two sizes now. You got what's the first size? Was 18 inches? Is that right?
19 and a half.
19 and a half. And the next one, the long one, now you got one that's what made you come out with that one? Probably for taller individuals, longer arms.
No,
No,
just
people
people
want
who
it.
like to bitch and complain.
People who wanted. I will say, I have both. I have all your stuff, but I have both. I will say the longer bar, I like it a little more in the sense that some with the shorter one, and I know there was a reasoning for it. It does feel more tricep based than potentially the longer one. At least that's how I would think. But
Yeah, in reality, it's the opposite.
it's okay.
It's not the opposite.
Okay.
You do get more, like if you're doing a chest press with the narrower bar, you are engaging the triceps more. You're also engaging the pectorals more. I mean, let's say I'm doing like, I don't know how many people are listening to this only
Oh,
versus watching this,
okay.
but we are recording the video. So I encourage you to go on YouTube and absorb the same material twice because it's worth it. So if I am taking a wide grip, and I'm coming down, I'm coming up, is this a sort of a closed position of my pectoral?
No.
No, it's not even halfway engaged. Now it's halfway engaged, more than halfway. So the
Right.
shorter the pectoral, the more engaged it is. So a narrow grip engages your pectorals more. The reason people like the wide grip is because it makes you look like you're a stronger person, but you're not. So it's the wide grip, you just go shorter. It's sort of like the sumo squat and deadlift. You spread your legs out so far that you only have to lift the bar, a couple inches off the
Sure.
ground.
Sure. I see that.
And it's like, I mean, are you lifting it? I guess. Like not in any way that you would if you know, were considering safety or whatever.
Yeah.
Like the wider the grip, destructive it is to the shoulder. Also, if you had like a heavy boulder to move and it was sitting on, you'd get right against it and trying like because your body knows like hands in where like the shoulders are.
Right.
That's where you're getting the most
Sure.
energy. No one a fighter doesn't want to hit someone like this. They want to hit someone like that. Like, I mean,
Sure.
shortest pectoral possible. So like the wide grip bench press is like it's for stupid people. Like I fucking like, dude, if you think about this, or no, clearly you didn't think about it. It's because if you think about it, like, you'd realize like that's not how you are going to get maximum stimulus into the pectorals.
Okay.
So
That makes sense. And what about let's talk about the ground plate. Because I actually think personally, my two favorite exercises are the front squat and the deadlift. And the reasoning is because, for one, the safety of it and the fact that it's just, doing deadlifts and trying to load weights and stuff. I don't know. For me, it's cumbersome. It takes time. With this, it's easy. And it's safer. You can just drop it down and not worry about whatever weights going places and things like that. And the front squat, I've never been good at front squats, but that's probably my favorite exercise, I'd say, on the X3 because you're engaging everything and
Mhm.
it's safer than trying to do a front squat, a traditional one. I give those people a lot of credit with traditional dumbbells because they're not easy. And so I truly really like both of those. Um,
Good. Yeah. I
yeah,
mean,
explain the ground plate a little bit.
so same reason you need a bar if you're going to do any sort of relevant to strength bands training, you need something to stand on that the bands can move freely underneath.
All right.
A platform with a channel that the bands can move underneath that runs about mid-foot. So yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, we have some patents on it. It's pretty simple.
Yeah.
But
It is simple,
yeah,
but it works. Yeah.
straightforward. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It's how to manage the weight through space so you deliver the most force where you are most capable and a diminished force where you are less capable because you've lost leverage. In the back of a bench press, you lose, lose the mechanical leverage. You're sort of just using the elasticity of the joint, which when heavy, like with weightlifting, you are damaging the joint. That is a universal truth.
Mhm.
As much as people don't want to admit that, but talk to anybody who's been heavy bench pressing for 10 straight years. Like doing this would cause too much pain. They can't do it.
Right.
They have trouble putting their shirt on in the morning. But I guess, they're going to the gym, so they think, they got all the answers.
Yeah, definitely easier on the joints, no doubt about it. I mean, I remember when I was doing bench for a while, used to have elbow issues and sort of got away from that because I just, the last thing you want to do as you get older is get hurt.
Right.
That's the last thing.
Well, also you start realizing as you get older, a lot of those things that you decided to walk off or rub some dirt on it and keep going are actually permanent injuries.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's tough to
Like,
disguise them as you get older.
yeah,
It's
exactly. And I think that's part of why we shifted our market. Like when we first introduced the product, it was like we were going after fitness fanatics, and then we immediately realized just how stupid fitness people are and how unable they are to absorb anything scientific. Like, math, addition, subtraction mystifies them. So you really need to we focus on busy professionals.
yeah,
Well,
well, that's a
busy
good market.
professionals, yeah, they're not afraid of reading. They actually know how to read. They're literate.
Yeah.
Which, there's a reason why fitness information is on YouTube and Instagram, pictures and videos. People can't read. Like, not only can they not read a research study, they, probably can't read their cell phone bill. So, yeah,
What about the new bands? Talk about those for a second, although that's pretty new and you've been selling out of them pretty quick. What was, tell me maybe the thoughts behind that, the newer bands.
so we developed a proprietary polymer, a new rubber
Okay.
that is, it delivers more force in the stronger range of motion and slightly less force in the weaker range of motion. So it's going to take you to a deeper level of fatigue because you can do more partial repetitions. And yeah, deeper level of fatigue equals more growth. I've been using them in prototype form for about a year, and they're phenomenal. So great at growing muscle faster.
And maybe talk to individuals about the partial reps. I'm curious the thoughts behind, the goal. I know you talk about with the X3 is one set to failure, and um, the last, let's just say 5 reps should be like half reps. Um, Thoughts behind that?
Depends on what the movement is, like in a chest press, it's like the last 3 reps because,
Okay.
but if it's a bent over row, you might have 15 partial repetitions because the middle of that movement is actually the more powerful position. So the strength curve is very different specifically for that movement. But, like squats, one or two partials,
Yeah.
because you're just devastated. Already with the variable resistance, you're just devastated. So yeah, it depends. A bit of it could probably depend on the individual. Like we're also looking at, and this is the last part of the book, and I've done more research on it since then. Found a few more studies. The variability of insertion points. So everybody's origin of a muscle is the same. Like my pectoral originates on my sternum, but on the other end, most people have it right here, sort of like between the two heads of the bicep,
Hmm.
underneath. So it
Okay.
attaches to the humerus bone and brings the humerus bone towards the midline of the body.
Okay.
Like that's what the pectoral does. But most strength athletes, professional strength athletes, people who are just gifted, people who grew more muscle than most people do in their lives, like their freshman year of high school, the attachment's over here.
Really?
It's on the other end of the bone. And that has been the traditional thing that defines who's powerful and who's not. Now, we look at these individuals, they have a lever inside their body. We do not. And that lever is made out of some of the most elastic material on earth. It's tendon. So they're doing variable resistance on the inside of their body all the time, which is why they have no trouble growing muscle, doing all kinds of stuff. I mean, I know guys in the NFL that use X3 that, I ask about their lifting history and they're like, I never really did any. And you look at them and they're like 235 and lean. And you're like,
Yeah, I'm sure there's a genetic proponent.
yeah. And
Yeah.
it's like, because guys like that, it's like anything they do, they can take a muscle to fatigue. And so really variable resistance is the gift that the gifted have, but they're just doing it inside their body. We're doing it externally,
Hmm.
but the result is the same.
Um, has there been some work with the Navy SEALs with the X3? I'm
Yes.
curious. Yeah, maybe touch on
Yeah.
that.
Navy SEALs are really enjoying X3.
That's cool.
Takes risk out of their training. It cuts down on their training time. Navy SEALs be very well-rounded athlete, but they got to be strong.
Sure.
And also a long time ago, when Navy SEALs first, it wasn't that long ago, when they first started, which I think was in the late 70s, they were very much endurance athletes. Also, they didn't really want to depend on technology. The fact that they might be able to grab onto some sort of, you know, device that has a propeller on it that can, drive them underwater, so they don't have to kick, to
Yeah.
move themselves with flippers. They can just hang onto this sort of trigger controlled torpedo that'll just drag them along. They really didn't depend on technology in the beginning, but they're much more geared towards that, which means they can carry a little more muscle and be stronger. Because ultimately, when they get to their destination and they have to deal with some people, especially if they have to deal with civilians that might be trying to get in their way, they don't want to shoot them. So enables them to just be more powerful human beings.
Um, Thoughts on some of there's some products, obviously you have competitors, right? I've noticed like
Indirect.
indirect, like tonal, that have been using, variable resistance. I mean, um, I think that's a good thing, right? Competition is a good
Oh,
thing. And
dude. Well, I
yeah,
love tonal.
yeah,
Um,
I've heard some great things. I mean, I think it's probably three, four times more expensive than yours because it's got a screen and a whole deal.
well, the price just went up. It's more than 5 times
Oh,
more.
oh, is it? Okay.
It's over $5,000. It's like
Yeah.
5,500.
So they probably
You
have
got
a
to
totally
install
different
it in your
audience.
house, and they got to
What's
like
that?
anchor it. They got to install it in your house,
Oh, right. Okay.
and they don't just like put anchors into the drywall. Like it's got to be like connected to the frame.
Yeah, it's
because
a process.
yeah, so like it's a pain in the ass to buy and get in your house, and then it only has a 200-pound capacity.
Oh,
Well,
really?
yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay, I didn't know that.
Yeah, so I mean it's variable resistance, but very light. And I'm just guessing you go over 250 in just about every exercise you do, especially deadlift, chest press, and squats.
Hmm.
Those are the big movers. So yeah, and also there's a directional problem. Everything has to come away from that screen. Well, sometimes you don't just push one direction through the air,
Well,
like a squat,
and,
like the squat's awkward.
and I'll also say this is I think one of the things that makes the X3 appealing is the fact that you can take it anywhere.
No,
And because I have clients who use it who are traveling, and you have the bags and stuff, and it's pretty easy to take on planes, I'd say, or to check it, But so you can't do that with the tonal. So
no, you can't take
you know,
tone. It's got to be installed. Um, yeah, I love the fact that the closest thing we have to a competitor is something that's 10 times more expensive, has to be permanently installed in your house. You can't take it with you.
yeah.
It's capacity. Like, I mean, my wife has already outgrown the capacity of that. And if we had it, she'd be like, I can't use it anymore. I'm too
Well, your
strong.
wife is really strong.
Yes, she is
So
really strong though. Yeah.
yeah. Um, what else? Is there anything else new on the horizon, or um, any new supplements you've added to the line?
We launched Citronium.
Okay.
So Citronium, like the nutrition that I talk about is predominantly, you'd call it low carbohydrate. I take about 15 grams of carbohydrates a day.
Okay.
I do that while I'm taking my Fortigen or in my Fortigen.
Okay. That's
Um,
it every day. So you don't bring any carbs in. You're just having protein and fat. Are you- Okay.
I mean, they're the only two macronutrients. Carbohydrates are not a macronutrient. Um, I even now there's been so many papers about athletes going zero carb and not losing any performance, even gaining some performance. So,
Hmm. Okay.
like what I really think that when it comes to nutrition, all research should be done on athletes. I
Really?
don't, yeah, because
Why do you think that? Is because athletes are a really small percent of the population.
yes, however, they're pushing everything to the maximum. Whereas the person who sits on the couch, they eat a vegan diet and it's like, oh, they're fine. So, we'll recommend that to everybody. Whereas like an athlete will be sick and malnourished. And if they get an injury, they won't recover from it. You can ask Cam
Yeah.
Newton. He ruined his career. Well, I mean, his attitude also ruined his career, but yeah, like just real, they were just not well. And I don't beat up on vegans. I just would rather explain to them why they really just shouldn't choose that
Yeah.
nutrition
Yeah, I
path.
mean, my thoughts if someone's a vegan or vegetarian. I mean, at one point I was like a pescatarian, but if someone is like a vegan or a vegetarian, they probably just have to use some outside supplementation to
A
get
lot, a lot
to
of
get
different
the
things.
nutrients and the protein that they'd want, to have
Yeah, I say it
performance.
can be done. It's just a hassle that over the years may not be worth it.
Sure.
But so the reason I came out with Citronium
Yeah,
was
I'm looking at it right now. So it's capsules. Okay.
capsules, and it's for people who want to change the glycemic index
Okay. Let's see.
of the carbohydrates they're eating.
Gotcha.
So similar to the mechanism of metformin or semaglutide or something like that. But it's all over the counter. It's extracts from different citrus peels. And
I see
so
that.
like the reduction in the digestible perceived glycemic index when it comes to like what amount of
So these are like polyphenols.
yes,
Got it.
what amount of carbohydrates are allowed to be digested at what rate. So if we can slow it down, we can change the glycemic index. So
Sure.
glycogen doesn't get too high, and the insulin can quickly dispose of these things. So with citronium, you can take you can eat something like a Snickers bar, and it digests at the speed, and the speed of digestion is everything when it comes to if you're storing body fat or not. So now a Snickers bar digests like a carrot. So it's a 16% change. Um, you're going to store a lot less of that as body fat, even in a caloric surplus. Uh, a deficit, you're not going to store any of it. But this really had to do with the fact that I can say 15 grams of carbohydrates a day. That's not what people are going to do. Maybe 2% of people will do exactly what I do, and they will get a phenomenal results. You look at some of the people on the forum, um, they
Yeah.
do just, they're in incredible shape, and it's because they're following to the letter. But, then I get messages from people that are like, you know, I can't do it. Now,
Yeah.
at first, I kind of rolled my eyes and was like, yeah, I mean, a lot of people can't do a lot of things when they tell themselves they can't do a lot of things, like not the right mindset to have. And at the same time, it's like,
Well,
okay,
I
some people, I'd rather give them help, even if
sure.
they're not doing the absolute optimum thing, than just, tell them to get lost.
And also too, I mean, I think some people do, what works for you, probably will work for a decent amount of people, but some people it doesn't work for, and they do need to go maybe a little bit of a different route. I can
Is
just
that
say,
really true? We've
well,
never seen that in any study ever. When the whole like everyone's different, find out what's right for you.
no, I hear you. I hear you. But I will say that there are people who um, have gone really low carb for a long time, and you're seeing this a little bit in the health and fitness industry. At least some people that I know who are in it, and they downregulate their thyroid, and they have issues from that standpoint. And then they start implementing some healthy carbs, whole food carbs, not processed carbs, and they get their thyroid back in shape that way. So if a carnivore diet works for one person, does it work for everyone? I don't know. I think my viewpoint has changed a little bit from that standpoint. I think some people can thrive eating different ways, but I think it all comes down to measuring and seeing where you're at, and what your body, like for example, there's people who are don't assimilate saturated fats as well as other people. It's a genetic it's
It's
a gene,
true.
yeah. And so I've had that done on me. I've gotten some gene work snips done on me. So,
So
yeah,
now my thyroid, unchanged from when I was a carbohydrate eater to
right.
now, never functioned all that well. But I think that's part of just being a white guy whose genetics are from, the Nordic regions. Um, One thing I did notice though, I
Okay.
did make a mistake with carnivore, and this pops its head up from time to time, is when you eat too lean,
Mm,
um,
not enough.
you don't get your essential fats. Now we
Yeah.
don't track essential fats. We don't really talk about them, but if you don't get some fat in your body, your eyes don't lubricate themselves. And that to me, like every once in a while you see me just like blinking all the time, like I'm just trying to, like I have like some dirt in my eye or something like that. No, that's not it. It's like my eyes just can't lubricate themselves. So, when on those days where like my wife really likes chicken and she likes chicken a lot more than steak.
Right.
I don't see how that's possible, but okay. Yeah, I just think steak is delicious. I think chicken's really bland, but you know, whatever.
And yeah, I think where you're going is chicken is a lot leaner. So I mean, yeah,
Yeah, and it causes
yeah,
that problem. If I eat
right.
chicken like 5 days in a row,
Yeah, that's
like I'm like having trouble with my vision. But
also,
it's just
but
the lubrication of the eye.
and chicken, it's tough to get a good pasture raised chicken too. It could be higher in PUFAs. Excuse me.
Yeah.
So you got to be careful from that standpoint.
Hmm.
Um, but anyways, has your routine changed since? I mean, we talked. Gosh, when was our last interview? What's your routine like as far as working out and your eating routine?
So I've been running experiments because I want to do like I want to present like here's 5 different nutrition plans that are only separated by sort of the level of aggression that you want. Whereas,
Okay.
the peak is 5-day dry fasting if you want to get leaner.
Oof.
Uh, you know, there's there's 2 studies that demonstrate how safe that is. Um, so I don't entertain somebody who's like, that's gonna kill people. It's like, yeah, fuck you, Ramadan. Billions of people do that shit. So you don't know what
Yeah.
you're talking about.
Although,
Uh,
don't they eat it? Don't they eat in the middle of the night at Ramadan? Or
oh, they do.
okay,
Yeah.
okay,
But like certain places, they don't, like if you're in a place where the sun never goes down, they literally like go 40 days with no food, no water.
oh,
Like if you move to Sweden and you're a Muslim,
well, that might not be the
Ramadan's
place to
rough.
live. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, you
I
may
don't know
want
how
to go
many
back to the
Muslims are in
days of
Sweden, but uh,
yeah. So I mean,
yeah,
if so the point is they did this 5-day experiment to just see if there's any negative implications. And there weren't. And that's for periods of where you just need extreme fat loss very quickly. We're talking losing more than 2 pounds of body fat per day.
right. And
Uh,
I'm assuming you're losing some muscle as well for a 5 day.
no, no muscle
Really?
loss at
Okay.
all in both studies.
Wow.
Um, but you're kind of flat on your ass even after you try and recover from a 5-day. Like it takes you a couple days to just like rehydrate and kind of get your bearings again. Like
Right.
getting accustomed to food again and drinking water is like almost a little challenging. So
Mm.
that top level, it's really normally 1 meal a day, dry fasted, just during the day. That's more like Ramadan, and then you can switch over to 5-day. If you have any fat loss needs, that's where I'd spent quite a bit of my time about a year ago, and now I'm just sort of experimenting with how relaxed I can go and still see a little bit of progress. So,
I mean, not to interrupt. I do like the fact that you're self experimentating on yourself. I would be curious, and because you're doing sort of, you said 5 different things, maybe different levels depending.
yeah.
I'd be curious to see, because I've done this with myself over the last 6 months. If you implement some whole food, healthy carbs into your life, see what, just to see what happens. You can always go back to eating the way you're
Oh,
eating.
that's been part of the experiment.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. I mean, there's no benefit to carbs. But like I'm not
So,
eating
so
enough
have you done
for it.
that yet? Have you done that yet? Or is that something you plan on doing?
No, I've done it.
Oh, you did it. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh,
So, I might do like a month with carbs and a month without, and then a month with carbs.
okay.
And yeah, I mean, it was mostly like fruits and vegetables.
Okay.
Um, now I don't like the entire idea that, we can eat fruit and honey. Like if you're a carnivore and you have high low density lipoprotein, high LDL, which was once considered bad cholesterol, you're fine. In fact, your cholesterol can be, 280. Your LDL can be 280. You're going to live longer because of that. And there's 10 years of research that proves this. So the premise of statins was wrong. So if you have a prescription for a statin, I suggest you find a new general practitioner. Uh, I could suggest one from Primal Medical Group. But ultimately, it's really the combination of having high LDL and then going off the rails and eating a whole chocolate cake kind of thing, and then your triglycerides go through the roof.
Sure.
So now you've got the inside of your arteries that are sticky and they're hanging on to some of the things that come by, like particles of low density lipoprotein. That creates a blockage that can create a cardiac incident, most specifically stroke.
You get your cholesterol levels measured and things like. Have you done blood
Yeah,
work lately?
yeah, like 235 to 260.
Okay. Do you get like your particle size and all that stuff measured or?
Yeah, and it's never a problem.
Okay.
Um,
What about working out? What about what's the routine now? I know on the website, there's sort of a push pull. I've always just not always actually. The last couple of years, I've been doing more of an upper and lower body split. What type of split are you doing?
Same, like on the website,
Okay.
push
I don't
pull.
know if you. Yeah, okay. Push pull.
Yeah, I mean, there's just something, but like changing the order of what you want to do, like that's one change to the program that is not detrimental at all.
All right.
So yeah, do that to find out what the way you like doing it best.
Okay. And you're doing push pull 5 days? Are you doing it 5 days a week
Six.
or six days a week
Yeah.
off? I know you don't love cardio. Do you do any type of like walking or
Oh, I don't mind cardio at
okay.
all. It's just the
Chronic
reason.
cardio. I guess you don't like chronic cardio.
Well, I mean, if you
Well,
want
I
to
don't.
lose muscle and preserve your body fat, that's what cardio does. There's 40 years of research on that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, it's just steady state cardio. You won't catch me doing that. Not because I don't like it. I used to. I did a triathlon. When did I do that? I don't know. I was like probably 27. Um, but like I didn't think it was good for me. Like I just did it to do it because it was fun. And I also this particular triathlon, I saw a chance I could win, and I did.
Oh,
So,
there you go.
but yeah, it was like right after rugby season. I was playing club rugby and for a really competitive team, and I was just in such incredible shape. Like, I mean, especially cardiovascular shape. Like, I could just run. I could run for an hour, and no need to slow down. Um,
Well,
but
yeah, go ahead.
like ultimately that research is there, and if you want to be the leanest and the strongest, which are the two drivers of long life, two greatest drivers of long life, being lean and being strong, cardio doesn't fit in that equation. Now, you might want to do intervals.
Sure.
Yeah, those are great. Or even walking, like when you stay away from target heart rate. Yeah, like walking is dynamite if you have the
I
time.
love walking. I mean, I have two dogs, so I have to walk. But
Yeah, there you go.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Do you
great.
do walking? Do you have any like morning routine or like what's that like?
I do have a morning routine. I think you asked me that maybe on our first
I think
podcast.
I think I
Yeah,
did.
and I think I was like, I don't have a morning routine.
Well,
And
maybe
at
I'll
the
inspire you.
time,
Yeah, go
my
ahead. Go ahead.
life was changing so quickly
Okay.
because this company was growing, and I was splitting my time between San Francisco and like I had been traveling for OsteoStrong. I was in Osaka, Japan frequently. I was in Moscow frequently. I was in London frequently. And those places are not.
Traveling's
walk.
tough. That'll take a toll on you if you want,
Yeah, and like so it was like, did I have a morning routine back then? Not really. It was sort of wake up, look around, and try and figure out what country I'm in.
So now,
And-
okay. So now,
oh, I woke up one morning and I think I've been traveling for 20 days straight, and I don't think I ever spent more than 3 consecutive nights anywhere.
yeah, that's tough.
In this particular trip was literally around the world. Like I started in San Francisco, flew to Chicago, then to London, then to Moscow, then
Mm,
Osaka,
mm.
then Hong Kong. And it was like I woke up and I look around the hotel room
No clue.
and I pick up like the room service menu, and it's like I can't determine what language it's written in. And I'm like, I don't fucking know what country I'm in.
Yeah.
And I open the window and it's like, I'm in Hong Kong. Okay. This,
Oh, it's
Hong
not
Kong's traveling.
Chicago.
Right. But I mean, I'm
Yeah.
just looking at this thing and I'm like kind of looking at the time and like,
Oh, yeah.
where am I? Yeah. It's a very unsettling trip. So anyway, so my
Yeah.
life was in flux. Yeah, I mean, I do have a morning routine now. Um, it's bland, I just do the same thing on
Hey,
autopilot.
I
Uh,
mean, what's it like? Do you first of all, do your workout, or do you go for a walk or anything like that? Or
I listen to, I'm at the point now where I don't listen to very many podcasts. I have somebody listening to podcasts for me,
okay.
and they tell me what time interval, like go to this podcast and
Oh, that's
from
cool.
the 11-minute mark to the 23
There's
minute
a
mark.
company that does that. Or did you just have someone do that for your? I think there's some things, how you could buy, these apps where they'll tell you certain books to read at, like, I don't know. I feel like there's something that might
Yeah.
have do the same thing for
I didn't know there
podcasts.
was a service, but
Yeah, I think there might be
got
a service.
somebody who's just giving me a heads up on some of
Oh,
the,
that's cool.
yeah, and so I catch up on those usually while I'm like shaving my head, my face in the shower. Um, I mean,
Okay.
it's not like there's a lot of prep work for this.
Yeah,
Just,
it might take you a little while to shave. I don't know. But.
now seconds.
Oh, wow.
Like, oh
Okay.
no, I get my head and my face in, I don't know, maybe 90 seconds.
Oh, wow. That's quick. Don't cut yourself
No,
going that
I
fast.
mean, I I I'm just used to it. Like it wasn't
Yeah.
90 seconds the first time I did it.
Yeah. Um, what else? So where are we expecting to see the X3? I talked Navy SEALs. Um, I know I've seen some NBA guys are using it, so that's cool. Are you trying to get into the athletics?
I like working with athletes. Well, I don't think anyone likes working with athletes. There's always a
No.
little bit of prima donna there,
Yeah, sure.
but they're fun. I mean, they just I athletes are very convinced they're busy, and I'm like, no, you're not. You're not busy for shit. I
Well,
don't.
yeah.
It's kind of funny. It's like busy doing what? Sleeping till 11? Come on, show up in the morning. But
Well, I don't know if Kobe slept till 11. He was probably up before everyone else doing work, but
Probably.
you know,
Oh, there's some.
yeah,
I
some of these
just had a
guys.
conversation about this. Like now, especially in the NBA, but this I see the same thing in the NFL. There's nobody like Rudy anymore. That just has a lot of heart and like, was born with less skill.
Yeah,
Everybody who's there
is
is
pampered.
just no, they're talented,
Right. Oh, well, yeah,
which
yes.
basically they're all so talented that they can rely on their talents. And
I
they're
totally
not
get that.
working as hard.
I totally get that. I think there's maybe few and far between guys that,
It's still work hard, sure.
yeah. I mean, I just think of a guy in the Bulls, Caruso, Alex Caruso. He's a small white guy. I mean, you look at him, you're like, how is he in the NBA? And you watch him play, you're like, wow, he can play D, he's a point guard. And like he was on the Lakers actually for a while. The Bulls got him from the Lakers, Caruso. Anyways, but yes, yeah, I think the modern day athlete's a little bit different than it was back probably 30 years ago.
Sure. I think recruiters have just done an amazing job finding the talented people.
Yeah.
And now it's like, getting a lot of these guys to really push themselves. They're kind of like, I've never had to push myself, and here I am. So, like, what do you mean? Yeah. Uh,
They're so talented. They just relied on their talents their whole lives. And
yeah.
but I would imagine once they get to the NBA, if there's some guys I'm sure who've made it all by talent getting in the NBA, and then once they get the NBA, they realize, whew, I might need to start working, or I
Well,
won't be in the
my
NBA.
speech to the guys that are, you know, totally cool with cutting practice half an hour short. I'm like, look, you can rely on your talents now, but at some point there'll be a younger guy that can do your job.
Yeah,
And then it's going to come down to performance, not talent. It's like there's equal talent, except, you got a couple lingering injuries and you're not in great shape. And this younger guy
oh yeah,
will probably be in great shape just because he's younger.
right,
Then you lost your contract.
yeah.
Then
They don't
you,
want.
you traded
Yeah,
and
that's when you
not
start.
traded for a starting position.
Right.
So it's I do try and I don't want to scare these guys, but they're young, they're making a lot of money. They never really had to work all that hard, though, like you said, some do. But it's very much like, when you watch the documentary about Michael Jordan, like he was talented, but he also just busted his ass. And I mean, that's why
Yeah.
he was like untouchable for years.
Those are
Mike
the.
Tyson, the
Yeah.
same way.
Who
It's
is
not
that? Mike.
Mike Tyson,
Oh. Oh my
like
God.
just yeah, like the hardest worker and the most
Most time.
genetically gifted person.
That's when you got a. That's when you got a dangerous person right there, who's the
Yeah.
combination of those two things.
Yep.
Um. Well, this was good. Good catching up. What? I'll ask you this question before we sign off here. What tip would you give someone that I don't know, like middle-aged individual, let's say middle-aged male, haven't done much working out? What advice would you give them, just maybe if they wanted to get their body back to what it once, maybe when they were in their 30s or so? What steps would you tell them to take?
I would tell them that the window for them, getting in shape or back in shape is closing. Like you can't all of a sudden get in shape when you're 65.
Sure.
You can do better. You can
Right.
always improve especially if you're deconditioned. But I had been developing the X3 and doing just different renditions of CAD drawings and things with my team. And I got my prototype for X3. It was like just a couple days after my 40th birthday. And I'm probably 50 pounds more muscular and lost 25 pounds of body fat or something. I haven't done that calculation recently because I'm a little bit better shape now. But it's like you got to get to that transformation fast if you're over 40 because your body's not willing to work with you, or it's less willing to work with you year by year. So number one is train with variable resistance. Give yourself the advantages that the professional athletes have. Second thing is you need to understand nutrition. That doesn't mean just being able to repeat the sentence, I need 1 gram per pound of body weight in protein. You need to understand that like vegetable protein is 9% usable by the body and steak is 38% usable. Like you need to understand that not all protein is created equal. And that's why I developed Fortigen. That's why I put it out. Uh, like it's a easier way to get to your protein requirements without being required to eat 3 pounds of meat a day. That a lot of people find that hard. I found it less hard than other people because I did it for a long time. But would I rather have, 2 scoops of Fortigen which go down like lemonade, and then eat 2 pounds of steak instead, yeah, I'd much rather do that. So that's the second thing. So
Okay.
understanding nutrition, understanding how much protein you need, and making your diet revolve around that, and also understanding that there are quality differences in proteins. And the third thing is, and this is part of what I'm trying to do with Primal Medical Group. Like I launched a medical group of 40 physicians last week. And the point of Primal is a lot of people are really unhappy with their physician because their physician doesn't really understand current nutrition research at all. They're probably just repeating what they hear from the AMA and what they hear from the White House, and they just say, "Oh yeah, everybody should be vegan." Everyone when vegan, we'd all die of malnutrition. Also, veganism doesn't save animals. 7 billion animals are destroyed every year for the sake of vegetable farming. So, we're an expanding species, and without exception, all expanding species destroy life. That's just the way it is. We need more land, we're taking it away from something else. That's how it is. So
What's number
I,
three?
I want people to focus, on finding more educated physicians, why I launched my own physician group. And then, of course, one of the things that this physician group does hormone analysis. Like, are your hormones optimized?
Sure.
With the way Western society has been treating itself, eating toxic foods as staples of our diet. Like most of what we eat, we shouldn't be eating. When like we're 70% plant-based right now, and we're fatter and sicker than ever.
Yeah.
Plant-based is clearly not the way to go. So a lot of people have been, hyper-estrogenic. So they have way too much, males have way too much estrogen, their system, the testosterone suppressed. Almost everybody's low in testosterone. So optimize that. And so it's three things. So you got to optimize your strategy to load the body. So that's variable resistance. You have to understand protein and get the proper amount of protein in your body so that you can actually grow muscles. If you don't have the building blocks, it doesn't matter what you do. Then the third thing is hormonal optimization and having a physician that actually understands that you want to be healthier and understands what it takes to become healthier.
I like those. And I liked in the beginning you said you got to create a little bit of urgency. If you're like you said, that window
closing.
right, the window's closing. I completely agree. And a lot of people don't act until there's some urgency involved. Yeah. And the urgency you don't want is something from your physician saying, you failed a stress test or something along those lines. You got to create that urgency in your own mind and right. and take those daily steps to, get where you want to go. So, this is great. This was great, Dr. Jaquish. Yeah. Where's I know you're all over X3 Bar. Good place to find you. JaquishBiomedical.com is
my new landing page is probably better. It's drj.com. DOCTOR, the letter J.com. And my last name is kind of tough. Like typing in Jaquish Biomedical, people don't get that right the first time. So
yeah,
with drj.com, you can get to anything. Like if you want to get to Primal, click on Superior Physicians. If you want to get to, you click on Superior Nutrition, it takes you to Fortigen. Superior Exercise takes you to X3. Plus, you can go to any other, you go to all those websites, and then all my social links are there too.
And I have I've been, just because you've been a user of the product, I have a link in the show notes for the save $50 off of an X3 as well.
Oh, beautiful.
For people that check out. So,
nice.
All right. John, thanks for coming on and for the third time. And I appreciate dropping all the knowledge on us today.
Yeah.
Have a great day.
Thanks, Brian.
Thanks for listening to the Get Lean, Eat Clean podcast. I understand there are millions of other podcasts out there and you've chosen to listen to mine, and I appreciate that. Check out the show notes at briangrin.com for everything that was mentioned in this episode. Feel free to subscribe to the podcast and share it with a friend or family member that's looking to get their body back to what it once was. Thanks again and have a great day.